All right, we should officially be live. Yes, correct. I am correct. Connecting. There we go. Hello, everyone. Hi. It is Friday once again. Oh, the doggo is in camera range here. Give me a second. I'll get that set up. How is everyone doing? Can you hear me okay? How has y'all's week been going? She's like, oh, look at that little pupperino. Zoom and enhance. There we go. Hi, baby. What are you doing? Yeah, I'm talking about you. Anyways, I can talk to my dog all day. Hello, everyone. Hello, Haley. Hello, Phil's Violets. Hello. I'm gonna go Zanya again because I also don't know how to pronounce that name. Hello, Little Threat. Hello, Twixie. Hello, Kev. Hello, Nathan. Hello, Fox of 8. Hello, Mira. Hello, Chunk. Hello, Violent Melody. Hello, Lazarus. Hello, Brian. Hello, Jet Z. Hello, welcome. Hello, Nigel. Hello, Hellhound. I haven't done, like, a greeting in a bit. I'm getting back into it. I'm getting back in the habit. Welcome. I know she's so awake. So alert. Today's been an exciting day. She's, like, been zooming all around today. Very, very high energy, which we love to see. Yes, Doggo is very much there. Alrighty. So, I don't know. Let's see. What is... YouTube is not, it's like weirdly not giving me all the information normally when I'm streaming, so I'm not sure. I look like I'm connected and people seem to be responding to me, so I'm going to assume I am actually connected. I'm going to go ahead and get the chat synced up here, and then we will get started. Alrighty, fingers crossed that this does not crash anything. Alright, I think we're good. I don't want to jinx anything, but I think we're alright. Okay, alright, so let's go ahead. We're at 69 viewers. Ooh. 69 viewers. I always have to comment on that before somebody else does for me. So, welcome. Hello. This is our Friday live stream with me, your host, Evie Lupine. I talk about kink, BDSM, relationships, dating, asexuality, queer stuff, etc. And we come on here on Fridays to have a fantastic time, hang out with me and my dog, and you guys all ask questions and answer them, and the chat answers, and we have a fun old time giving life advice, sometimes serious stuff, sometimes not so serious, sometimes random idle questions like, if you had 3 wishes, what would you wish for? You know, we had that one last week, I think, and we just were here to hang out, and we have a really great little group that comes in every week, and I love getting updates, I love hearing stories from you all, and essentially how this works is you guys ask questions, I answer them. I usually have some ideas in the title of things we could talk about. I have been very busy this week working on a lot of stuff that hopefully when it all comes together, you all will really enjoy it. It's like probably by far the biggest project I've ever worked on collectively. But when it's all done, it's gonna be really exciting. So I've been busy, and one of the things I have been working on is there's a lot in there about like the pain tolerance and understanding pain tolerance and scenes and masochism and kind of like the whole realm of stuff. And I get a lot of questions about like pain tolerance, and like it's pretty much like pain tolerance, bratting, like punishments. Those are like the hot things a lot of people want to know about. So we could talk about that for a little bit. But really it's whatever y'all want to talk about. I have some guidelines down below that you can go ahead and check out, or like I really recommend that you should. Baseline things you need to know. Don't ask me super personal stuff. So like I'm not gonna tell you what neighborhood I live in. just be polite. And I'm not going to give medical advice, mental health advice, anything like that. Just because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. I can talk to my own experiences with things, you know, like different therapy modalities or like how to find a therapist or like things like that. But I'm not going to be able to tell you if like I think something's infected or like if something is like medically safe or not. I can have a guess, but for the most part, I'm going to be like, go to the doctor. Okay, so that's that on that. I just like be polite and talk about politics. I answer questions in the order they come in. So if you want to make sure to get your question answered, you can go ahead and just put that in now, put it in early, because as we go on during the stream, I will inevitably end up going slower than the questions that come in. So usually at the end, I'll give people like 10 or like 15 minutes to re-ask something if I didn't get to it. And then we'll just kind of do a little like rapid fire thing at the end. So that's more or less what you need to know about this stream. Also 18 plus only, almost forgot that part, very important. So if you are not at least 18, that's the phrasing, please do not be here. That's for your safety, my safety, everyone's safety, because mixing minors and adults together in kink education, not a good idea, especially because, again, I'm not a professional. You know, if I was a sexologist and I worked with Planned Parenthood and this was like a professional thing I was hired to do, maybe it would be a different story. But generally speaking, we love people that are eager to explore things and want to learn and want to educate themselves to be safe. This is not a place for one-on-one interaction. There are other places online like Scarletine, though less so these days, especially there's been a great reduction in resources available to like teenagers online that are just like their space. But like, talk to a professional if you have concerns. Planned Parenthood is fantastic. I know there's not really a lot, but it's just for everyone's well-being. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into some questions. So let us see how everyone is doing, what is going on. We also love it. Somebody else famous. Oh, Croatia. Okay. Hello. Welcome. All the way from Croatia. Believe it or not, I actually know where Croatia is on a map. I know where Croatia is on a map. That's, there was a men's gymnast that was in the men's finals for the Olympics that was from Croatia. I was rooting for him because like men's gymnastics is very dominated by like basically 3 or 4 countries. He did not get a medal, but I was rooting for him. He almost did it. Biffed a landing. Biffed a landing. Well, you know, such is the way things go. Anyways, hello, it's random Croatia facts with Evie, I guess. I feel like whenever I talk to a European, I have to be like, I know where your country is on a map, because I feel like Americans get a really bad rap for not knowing geography or like where countries are. And I try to buck that stereotype when possible. So glad to be finally on the stream again. It's been far too long. Welcome back, Mira. Hope you are doing well. Yes, check out the FAQ below. Good idea as always. Yes. Thank you. I'm looking awesome as always. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know what that means. Do you mind questions about the Croatian? What is that? What is that a reference? I don't understand what you mean. I don't understand what you mean by that. I feel like that might be a reference to something I don't understand. I mean, like, in order to say yes or no, I need to understand what you're talking about. So tell me and I can maybe answer, but I don't know what you're saying. Sorry. Why do I feel like, what's that movie? It's like a Serbian film. Are you confusing Croatia with Serbia? That's like, do not do that. I don't know what that is either. I've heard of it spoken in hushed tones, but I also don't really know what a Serbian film is either. I think I'm okay not knowing. I think I'm okay just having it be a vague thing out there in the world. My dogs have been off the charts crazy, energetic today too. I think it's the full moon coming up. Oh, is it? I didn't know that actually. I don't know if there's any correlation there. I think it's also the weather because it's cooled down here a bit, but it's still pretty warm outside. And I think when you get to that level when it's still warm and sunny, but it's not like 90 degrees, I feel like that's like helpful for having more energy. Oh, Johnny Prince Charlie, welcome. Hi, Evie. Not a great week, unfortunately. Sorry to hear that. Got any tips for getting over a poly breakup where there's no hostility? Turns out she was never really that into guys. 14 days no contact. We reconnect on Monday. Oh, that sounds very painful. I'm very sorry, Johnny. That is rough. It sounds, I guess from what you're saying, it sounds like she kind of ghosted you, but also like maybe it was a pre-planned, like exactly 2 weeks, I'm gonna peace out and then we're gonna talk about this again on Monday. I've noticed that more lately. I wonder if any of you all in the chat have experienced this. I have not gone through this, but I know people who have, where they go through a breakup and then like the person like completely like leaves, no contact, doesn't say anything. But then is like before that is like, I'm just gonna like completely remove myself, not say anything, and then I'm saying we're going to talk again in like a week or 2 weeks or like a month or something. I understand that from a doing what's best for you perspective, but I feel like it's very painful for the person on the other end because like you are the only person who's in control of that and you're dictating the terms of how that contact happens just unilaterally. And there's not really anything the other person can do about it. I mean, when you're broken up, I don't know how much like morally you owe someone for that, but I feel like from a kindness perspective, that's, it's a little some degree of like intentionally being willing of hurting the other person emotionally by just like being like, we're gonna go no contact, but it's not forever, so don't get over me fully because we're still gonna talk again at some point. Like it's sort of splitting the difference between like maintaining contact and like letting it naturally like fall away over time and like completely going no contact, like for realsies. So that's really rough. I mean, especially when it's something that's like she just realized her sexuality was maybe different than she thought it was and that she's really only into other people and not guys. That's rough. I mean, personally, getting over a breakup with someone when it's not hostile, I do find a lot of people tend to use hostilities in breakups to sort of fuel them through the breakup. Like if you hate someone and you can have a little tea sesh with your friends. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I never told you, but they did this, and this, and they said this, and oh my God, can you believe it? And like that can help people get over the breakup because they can completely go into the territory of, oh my gosh, I hate them, they're awful. It's like, yeah, they are awful. And then you're like, yeah, it's good we broke up because like they're so shitty. And then like, I mean, there's still like sadness and emptiness and all of that can happen, but it's like because you're so fueled by the like this person is shitty energy, like you don't have to really contend immediately with the like, but times were good sometimes and they were nice and you like this quality about them that's no longer gonna be around or whatever. So when you're not fueling your breakup experience with just learning to hate the other person and it's just like like things didn't work out, we weren't really that compatible and we're going our separate ways, there's sort of like physical things I find helpful to do, and then there's like the mentality you go into it with. So like physically, what I find helpful to do, and this is my general advice for people like going through like mono breakups, poly breakups, whatever, doesn't matter your relationship type, kinky, vanilla, whatever, doesn't matter. I really recommend like sounds weird to say get a hobby, but like if you've had any hobbies that you have let fall by the wayside to make more time for this person, or things that they didn't like that you really enjoy, you never got to have time to do anymore, or maybe you used to be part of like, I don't know, like a group of friends that played Magic or played video games, or you used to go out and do ultimate frisbee. I don't know. Get back into doing those things if you didn't make as much time for them because of that relationship, or if you have old things in general you like, you just haven't done in a long time, but that you enjoy, or like just basically it's about finding things that like you don't associate with that person. Because especially if you were like doing kink together, like I don't think like going into the kink community and doing a bunch of stuff will necessarily help. But I think it can help if you are trying new things that you don't associate with the person or going back to old things that you knew that you liked. So that is what I would look for. And then if you are wanting to get into something new, doing something that's like a group activity is really nice. And there's so many options, right? There's like, I talked about video game stuff. There's like book clubs, all kinds of like crafty things. Like out here, outdoor stuff is really big. So there's all kinds of groups for, this isn't really outdoor stuff, but like, you know, rock climbing, bouldering, hiking groups, like any, like kayaking, probably any group you want to be part of, there's probably like something for it. There's a website called, I think is it just like meetup.com? Is that what it is? I think it might just be called Meetup. Yeah, it's literally called meetup.com. I don't know if it's like big where you live, but you probably, even if it's not big where you live, there's probably a similar version of this where you are at. And there's just like general like fun stuff to do on there. I opened it up and I discovered there's something called underwater hockey. I've never heard of underwater hockey. I don't even know what that would possibly look like, but that's an activity you can just go and do. There's like concerts, wine tastings. There's a lot of like, at least here, there tends to be a lot of like meditation, yoga retreats, plant medicine type things. Also like book clubs. There's, for example, there's one on here that's like a neurodivergent group for neurodivergent people, and it's like just a hangout and chat thing. There's messaging circles. There's all different categories of stuff on there. But I don't know if it's like a thing where you live, but something similar probably. So that's like a good way to go out and meet people, is that I know multiple people that have like moved to different places and then like met friends and like had more of a connection with their community through places like Meetup. So I think occupying your time with things that you know are enjoyable and are fun and like connecting to new people is really good, like when you feel ready to do that. And then like mentally, I think something that I've really learned as I've gotten from like, you know, going from like the teenager version of breakups into like the adult with a job version of breakups, like they're so different. And something that I've learned, you know, getting into my mid-20s and beyond, like going through breakups, is like it's okay to grieve the loss of the relationship. I think, again, going back to what I was talking about with people just like powering through stuff with like being angry at their ex and like being vindicated because look how awful they are. I think that temporarily works in the moment, but it sort of ends up delaying the inevitable thing you have to do, which is like confront the fact that the relationship is over. And we don't really like allow people to grieve for it, because when you're angry at something, you're not really grieving about it necessarily. You're just like, yeah, it's good, it's over, screw that. And you don't really sit and think about, you know, it's okay that this thing is making me sad because it was important to me. And there's like all kinds of like grief workbooks. There's like different, I know there's like a grief card deck you can use that'll have like, you can use it like a daily, like it's sort of like a daily meditation thing where there's daily things you can use every day to help you process the ending of the relationship and just things to reflect on about grief. And there's like pretty artwork on it. It's really nice. There's probably multiple versions of it, but that's the one I'm thinking of. And grief is really hard because it's a combination of so many different emotions. Both happiness is something that wasn't working, maybe is over, so you have more time for other things, and it's okay to think about those positive things, but it's also okay to think about those things that you are losing, especially losing that human connection. And oftentimes I think in modern times, where especially because of the pandemic and because of so many things going on in the world and like the internet becoming more important and of so many things, and also just like becoming an adult, like you tend to meet less people. I think one thing we really tend to miss out on during breakups is we miss that social connection of like having someone in our lives. Like so many people, like the only person they have in their lives who are not family members are like a significant other, and like that's it. Like maybe they have friends through a significant other, maybe they have some work acquaintances, but don't really have anyone else. So it makes it so much more painful when you don't have other social connections and you lose that one person in your life. So for me, I really recommend, like, that's another reason why social activities are so great, is because you get that opportunity to expand that social circle and meet people that hopefully you're more compatible with, that you will be able to enjoy the company of, and who will enjoy your company. So that is what I would think about for that. And then it's just a time thing. Like, breakups suck. I don't know what the rule of thumb is. I think it's something like, like 1 month for every year of the relationship is like a pretty good estimate of like how long it takes to get through a breakup. Like, and for me, it depends. Like, there's one relationship where I broke up with them and it was like very long term, even though I was the one who initiated the breakup and it was like very one-sided. It still took me, I don't know, probably like 6 or 7 months, even though the relationship was not something that lasted for 7 years. It took me probably that long to start to feel better again. And then other relationships I've been through, I've had to break up with somebody where it's been like that long or longer, and it's been like 3 months. So like, it can depend, but usually at least like a couple months, I feel like, to like fully get over it. Just like have grace for yourself. I'll do all the normal good things we like to do, get sleep, eat good food, and like take some time to be sad about it and to like kind of pamper yourself. Like, have a couple days where you just like, watch nice cartoons, or you like order food from your favorite restaurant, even though you never order delivery. And, you don't work, you don't try to be productive, you don't try to be like a member of society, or just like zoning out, chilling out, doing positive, happy things that maybe you normally don't make time for, because maybe you feel guilty about, like, I feel this way, maybe other people don't, but like, feeling guilty about spending your weekends, you feel like you should be doing productive things, and you're like, oh, well, like, I should take care of the garden, or like, I should go visit my parents, or I should organize my pantry. And so you like do busy work, and it's like, no, just take time, take a breath, relax. And yeah, and I think especially because you said it was like a poly breakup too, I'll add this too. This is like more of a specific to poly thing. Okay, I'm going to say this, and I want to preface this by saying this is not me doom forecasting, but this is how it's talked about in, it's actually, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet. Johnny, there is a great book that is called, I think it's by Kathy Labriola. I get some of the poly authors mixed up with each other. Thank you. Long COVID. Yes, the polyamory breakup book. That is by Kathy Labriola. There's an ebook of it. There might be an audiobook. I haven't looked for it specifically. Really great book written by a therapist. And it's sort of a book about understanding why polyamorous breakups happen, but it's also, there's like good advice in there for like dealing with the breakup and coming to terms with it as well. So it's kind of both like understanding the why relationships end, and then also like in an intellectual capacity, and then also dealing with relationship breakup. I read that like probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's really good. And this is one of the things that stuck with me from reading that book, is when you are going through a breakup in polyamory, there can be a knock-on effect towards other relationships. And it's sort of like, because of the way polyamorous relationships are constructed, you have these kind of like layers of relationships on top of each other. And when like one like falls over, it puts too much pressure on the other relationships, and then they kind of like collapse because they're not used to that weight being on the relationship, because it was much more interconnected previously. I think this is probably more true for relationships when we have like multiple people living together, or there's like families involved, or like really long-term relationships, or it's like, somebody was married and they're getting divorced, and they're like putting all their emotional energy in like their hookup buddy. Like, if it's like a really big like commitment difference where you're going from like married, committed 10+ year relationship to like, well, now I'm gonna get all my emotional needs met from like my fuck buddy, like that's probably not gonna work out in anyone's favor, because that's like, that relationship's not been tested to that load. That relationship is not rated for that volume of like pounds of pressure being put on it. But when it's more like, maybe if it's like a non-main relationship ending, or you're just like more cognizant of not putting that weight from one relationship onto the other, then it can work out. But you need to be aware of that, because like you can end up with sort of a domino effect of like a bunch of other relationships either failing or ending, or being compromised in some way because like one person and like really two people, right, had a breakup, and then that has cascading effects elsewhere. It's just important to be aware of that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but with poly, you do need to be aware of that possibility. And just like, I don't want to say anything close to like, don't burden your partners with your feelings, because I hate that mentality. I think that like, especially if you're going to be like emotionally close partners, not just like fuck buddies, not just like we hang out once a month people, like if you actually are in like committed emotional relationships with people, like this is kind of part of that bargain, is like supporting people when they're having rough times. But there's a difference between like leaning on people temporarily because you want emotional support for like a while versus like, I'm taking what I expected from this relationship and entirely putting it on this other person who doesn't really necessarily even want that kind of relationship with me, but because I don't want to be alone, I'm going to put that on them. That's, I think, really more where the problems arise. But yeah, the book again, because I'm not even going to look, but I'm sure that somebody will have asked me again what the book is. It is the Polyamory Breakup book. It is by Kathy Labriola. It is on Amazon. There's an ebook version of it. There's probably an audiobook. I haven't looked for it though. You can also get it on, I don't know, what else do people use? Kobo, whatever the Barnes & Noble one is. You can probably get it used at this point from a used bookstore if you like. Although, like, honestly, poly books, you don't tend to find very many of them cheap secondhand. They're pretty high demand books as it is. What do you mean it's a bad idea to move in with your fuck buddy with no trial runs? Yeah. Don't do that. There are like some bad ways of doing poly, and I'm gonna say, not to be judgmental, I'm gonna say that's probably one of the bad ways to do it. But great question. Thank you so much. I know, now she's very sleepy. She's like the queen of sleep, for real. Except for when it's 2 a.m. and she's excited that I got up. And then it's like, we're not starting the day. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, doggo. But such is life. Anyways, great question, Johnny. I will keep monitoring for any follow-ups in case you have anything you want to add, and we will go from there. But hopefully that will help. And again, I'm very sorry about the breakup, even if it's, you know, not a long-term relationship or you weren't, like, you're not going through a divorce. Like, it doesn't matter. It's still really hard. And I will say this, too. I think people try to minimize breakups with being like, oh, but it's not like you were married. It wasn't like you'd been dating for like insert length of time here. And also like socially monogamous people, like this is a common refrain you will deal with is like, but you're dating other people. So like, and it's like, that doesn't make it any less bad. Like if I have 3 dogs and one of the dogs is in the hospital, I'm not like, well, I'll be okay because I have 2 dogs still. Like, that's not... that would be... if that was a way that somebody thought, I would be concerned. Let's say that. So it's even if it's not something that was like meant to be a lifetime relationship, you're not married, you know, you're not to those certain levels of like monogamous expected commitment, like it's still painful. Even if it's somebody you've been dating for a couple months, and this is maybe more general for people in the audience, like even I think people feel bad about themselves for being upset about a relationship ending. If it's like, well, but I've only known them for 2 months, 6 months, a year. We haven't even like met each other's parents yet, whatever. Like that doesn't matter. It's if a relationship is really important to you and you had a lot of hopes about the future or just really like their company that's no longer going to be the same anymore, that's okay. Like some people are very like avoidant and they're not really in touch with that kind of thing, and they're just like, well, fuck it, I get to be by myself and that makes me happy, and like I don't care if I was dating them for 5 years, I'm over it. Like some people are that way, and some people are like, we were together for 2 months and I was sure that they were the love of my life and like nothing's going to be the same again, and I need to go have another bowl of ramen to drown my sorrows in. Like that's, some people are that way, and that's okay. We all have different relationships to grief and to breakups. That's what I would say. If Bandit could read human text, I'm sure she would have a tablet or computer to keep along with the chat. I think she'd just probably be spamming hearts. I think she'd probably just like be spamming the heart thing over and over again and hoping that that would result in a treat, or she'd just be, I don't know, responding with emotes probably. I feel like she gives me emote communicator vibes, but I don't know But if she had like human level communication, I'm not sure what she would say. Oh, nice. We're planning on gaming and going to a National Trust site a week or so after, and perhaps Pride next month. Oh, I don't know. Is that Pride time in the UK? Is that September? Y'all do that? Interesting. I don't know what that was. Find ways you can still be pals rather than things just trailing to the distance. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you do have things to do with the other person. Here's my like hot take about that. I think if it's like a mutual breakup and you're just like, oh, we're just like meant to be friends. Like sometimes that just, also everyone's spamming hearts now. Hi. Thank you. I wish there's a way I could show it on screen. I haven't found a way to link that up with any streaming software yet, but I'm hopeful that'll be supported at some point, but thank you. So on maintaining friendships with people you've broken up with, my personal philosophy, this does not have to be your philosophy, this is how I do things. I think generally speaking, you have to kind of go one or the other. I think either it's like totally mutual and you're like, oh yeah, actually we both agree, we're like best off being friends and like, let's see how that goes. And like, I've had that, like, especially as I've gotten older, like work out really well. But if you don't really want to be friends with someone and you just like, it's either sort of like romantic connection or nothing because it'd be too painful to just be friends. Like, I don't think it's like necessarily like emotionally in your best interest to like hang on to someone, because like there's like learning how to be okay being friends with someone, and then there's like holding out hope that you can eventually rekindle a romance or like rekindle a physical relationship. And if somebody's going about it thinking like, oh, well, I'm just like waiting for them to realize I'm the one for them and like they're actually going to want to date me again, I don't think that really works. I think people tend to heal better from relationships if they like have a clean break. And in that moment, they decide, actually, like, sayonara, we'll communicate enough to, like, you know, get things to and from each other's houses or figure out, like, what we're doing with the dog or the pets or whatever. Or it should be a pretty clean break, or it should be, like, we're going to be friends. I think doing anything sort of in the middle is probably confusing. But because I think it goes back to that like social connection thing. And if you're spending time and energy like preserving and moving into a friendship space, that takes up a lot of your energy. You're not doing the important work of making your own friend circle or expanding it or like putting in more work to maintain it. Because usually with breakups, right, you're spending a lot of emotional energy on that person, and that can cause other relationships to fall by the wayside. So it's like it's a delicate balancing act of making sure you're not continuing to put all of your energy into the basket of like the ex-partner, because that's not like fair to your other friends, and ultimately I don't think it's like fair to yourself either, if you're not like really sure that you're going to be like compatible friends. But that's just my 2 cents on the matter, at least. My ex-partner wants to be friends, but I'm still hurt by the breakup. I mean, that's valid. I mean, it's a two-way street. Like, if you just like, both people have to agree on that. Like, you can say, you have the power and the authority to say, hey, I totally respect that you want to be friends, and I've enjoyed your company, and obviously I really enjoyed getting to hang out with you, but I'm still hurt by the breakup, and I'm not over that, not ready to be friends yet. You can just say that. And then their response to that, if you phrase it appropriately, you're not just like sending it out randomly at 1 o'clock in the morning. If you phrase that well, and you communicate what you actually mean, hopefully their response will tell you if they're actually worth investing in. Because if they respond and they're like, what do you mean you're not sure? And you're like, you need time and you should be grateful, I want to be friends with you. Like, if they get really mean and defensive about it, they're not somebody that's like probably worth being friends with. But if they're like, oh yeah, no worries, I totally understand, take your time, breakups are really hard, like, get back to me when you feel ready. Like, if they can be conciliatory and they can be kind towards you, that means everything. If they're still in the like, I want to dictate the terms of what happens in this relationship, and we're either friends or nothing. Because I've had people do that too during breakups, when they're like, it's either my way or the highway. We're going to do it this way, or we're going to do it no way at all. I think outside of like, I don't know, like abuse scenarios, like toxic relationships, like, you can't just have it be like one-sided dictate. And by the way, when I say that like outside of abusive relationships, I mean like if you are somebody that is leaving a violent, abusive, toxic relationship, you get to unilaterally decide what is good for your own safety. Okay, it's not like a mutual thing at that point, because you're maintaining boundaries and setting them for your own safety, and they do need to be firm. But if it's not that scenario and you're like, you know, just a mutual breakup, or you weren't compatible, or whatever the reason, if you're in the process of going through a breakup, like, I think it's, you know, the other person doesn't get to decide, like, it's either this or nothing, and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, if it's one thing to set a boundary around it and be like, hey, this is what I have energy for, this is what I'm available for, either it works for you or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, that's fine, like, you know, have a great life, it was nice to know you. Like, that's very different than, like, getting angry and vindictive and being like, no, you have to do it this way because that's what I want. Like, do you get the difference between those two? Like, the kind but firm of, like, this is what I want and this is something I am not willing to compromise on, and I'm going to tell you that up front, versus not communicating that, giving the other person options, and then getting mad when they don't pick the option that you secretly wanted the whole time. You know what I mean? That's rough. But that's my breakup. That's my breakup advice. There you go. I'm full of them. Polyamory means lots of breakups happen to lots of people. I know people that literally got married to, like, the first person they dated in college when they were, like, 18, and they've been through, like, less breakups in, like, their whole life than I've had in, like, 2 years. Like, it's not everyone has a lot of experience with breakups. Not that it's, like, necessarily good to have a lot of experience with them, but it does lend you a certain perspective when you've been through, like, 5, 6, 7 plus, and you're like, oh yeah, I will live through this. Like, I think that's something too, if you're not used to breakups and you've only done it a couple times, or, like, this is the first time it's been, like, that version of a breakup. Like, if you're just used to the, like, I hate the person kind of breakup, and then you go for, like, a mutual breakup, or, like, you get broken up with instead of you breaking up with them, if you're in any kind of new scenario, then you end up, I don't know, getting kind of lost in the water, and it can feel really difficult. But ultimately, today, like, even if it's, like, a really long-term relationship and you were, like, engaged to be married, guess what? Life does go on, and, like, other things happen in your life, and you meet other people, and it ends up being okay, ultimately, most of the time. I also, like, I feel like in movies I see this. I haven't really seen this in real life, but, like, for the most part, it ends up being okay. Let's be friends forever, she said. Haven't heard a pip from her in years. Women are funny. Don't say it if you don't want it. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's a woman problem. Like, as the woman that primarily dates men, like, I've heard that just as much from men as I have from women. Like, even more so from men. Like, a lot of men want to stay in contact. I think probably mostly because they're hoping to still have access to your body for things more than anything. But I've also heard that, like, a lot from men too. They're like, oh yeah, let's still talk. We'll hang out. Like, because it's easier. It's sort of the delay. It's like you sort of halfway ripped off the Band-Aid, but you haven't fully ripped it off, and you're like, oh yeah, we can just still hang out. We can still, but they don't actually really have any intention of doing that because they're monogamous and they only want a romantic relationship with someone of the opposite sex, and they're not actually really interested in friendship. Not always the case, but a lot of the time. That's what sucks. We were so compatible and had so much fun together, and it went from I want to be your life partner to I'm not sure if I have time for you anymore, made me feel picked over. Ooh, that's really rough. I'm sorry. Yeah, ouch. Big ouch for sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I haven't heard that exact thing before, but I've heard flavors of that, of like, I'm going to be with you forever, and you're, like, super special to me, and, like, I can't ever even picture being with anyone else who'd be even like you, and you're what I've always dreamed of. And then suddenly it's like, actually, we're not really that compatible, and I really only wanted to be friends, but I didn't know how to tell you. Like, yeah, that's happened before, and it sucks. And it's like, you were telling me a very different thing the whole time, and suddenly it wasn't that at all. Whew, rough. Very rough. Breakups are hard. People are hard. It's a tough one out there for sure. I think we can all say that all people can want to keep a connection, but find it hard to actually do. Oh yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, maybe I should be more charitable, I guess. Like, there are absolutely people who do, like, when they say, like, let's be friends, like, they mean that in the moment. They're not trying to be deceitful. That's their intention in that moment, because maybe it's really painful for them too, and if they're the one initiating the breakup, in order to, like, avoid the pain of an actual full-on breakup. Like, they're willing to say, oh yeah, let's be friends, because it's like, it's easier to process that way. Or they really feel it because they're like, wow, this, like, breakup is so hard, and, like, I definitely don't want to keep dating this person exclusively, but like maybe friends would work. And they're like, in the moment, they're like, yeah, let's be friends. And then as you have time apart and you separate and you're experiencing your life again, not being in a couple with that other person, maybe you realize, like, actually, I'm okay just being by myself. I'm okay not being friends. Not very many people communicate that change, which I think is where it gets to be a problem, where you have people who are not, like, owning their feelings to the opposite party and like, hey, before we said, because that's like a whole other, that's like sort of a different second breakup where you're like, actually, so how before I said I wanted to be friends, well, actually I thought about it and I think it's probably just better if we spend our energy on other people. And that's rough. That's really hard. Because that's like, when you have the door cracked open a little bit, then it's like, okay, well, there's something going on there. But when that door of connection fully closes and no connection is there anymore, that's really, really hard. Really hard. Reminds me of how that cis guy kept talking about how he wanted to share rent for a place with me and even had domestic shop renting fantasies, etc. I thought it was going to be something else. Before one day admitting he hates that I'm poly. Wow. I have very thankfully not experienced that particular thing of like somebody being like, I said I was okay with poly and guess what? I'm not. Like, I have seen that happen to other people. Like, I've been with someone who's whose partner's done that before, or like heard about it before. Actually, I've not been witness to it as it happened because I broke up with a person before, but then I heard about it later. Or it's like, it's a known thing that happens in the poly world. You get, not necessarily people who are trying to cowboy or cowgirl, but are sort of being like, yeah, I'm cool with poly. Like, poly's great. I'm curious about that too. And then they do it for like a couple months and they're like, actually, I was hoping we just could close the relationship. And like, oftentimes, especially if it's like a man dating a woman who's poly, like they'll have a lot of weird feelings about like you being a slut, basically, because like you're dating more than one person, especially if like a lot of men who say they're okay with poly, especially if they're straight guys, are really only okay with like, if you're somebody who has a vagina, you better not be dating any other people with penises. Like, it's very bioessentialist. Like, they don't want any other dicks involved. And they get very possessive about that, and it's not great. And then when they realize they can't control you that way, or that you will not allow it to happen because, like, you're poly, then they go, actually, I don't like this, and I hate it. Or they just don't actually, maybe they're not that way, maybe they just don't like poly, but a surprising amount of it goes back to, I want my penis to be the only penis. It's like, maybe your penis isn't that great. But also, sometimes it's not even about your penis. I feel like a lot of people, I'm saying the word penis a lot, but a lot of people seem to think it goes back to like, if I have the greatest dick of all time, she will not want to be around other dicks because mine will be so amazing. And it turns out for a lot of people, you can, especially if they're like naturally poly, they don't care how amazing your penis is. It's about other people and liking other people as whole human beings. And like the status of your dick does not really change anything. Yeah, poly cowboys or girls suck. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think they always do it maliciously. I think some people, again, there's like people who do it being like, hey, I'm gonna like break up this couple and like, I hate poly people and I'm gonna, like that are doing it in like a literal hand rubbing villain way. And a lot of people, I think, start out having, again, that intention of like, oh, I'm gonna try poly and like I'm gonna see how I feel about it and I'm open-minded, and they very quickly, much sooner than they communicate to you, are like not okay with poly, and then they like start thinking about ways that they can get you to not be poly anymore. And when those ways don't work because you're just poly and you're like not gonna give up those other relationships, okay, no, for a second I thought my camera was giving me an overheating warning, but it was not. I have my fan on, don't I? Yes. Okay. Should be good. Sony cameras. Not good cooling on them, but it's the camera I have, so it's what we're going with. Yeah. I think linear/hierarchical thinking really sets people back. Yeah. And I mean, like, not one of those people that practices poly that's like, this is the only good way of doing polyamory, and if you do it literally any other way, it will fail. Like, I don't think that's true. I think there's lots of ways of doing poly, that even some that include hierarchy, that can work for the people involved, that can lead to long-term, happy, healthy outcomes, depending on how you go about it and how aware of it you are. A lot of people obviously do use hierarchy to, like, one up other partners or to try and control a relationship in a way that's like not really positive or productive. And when you get into that territory of like, well, because I'm the primary, I get to say this and this is how it's going to be, and they just start acting really, really unilaterally and are not taking into account like the other relationships involved there, that's when it gets really bad. Yeah, hierarchy I think can be done okay, but if you are not processing your relationship to hierarchy and not thinking about it complexly, then it gets you in trouble for sure. The one penis policy feels short-sighted to me. Oh yeah. For couples opening up, I feel like the late bloomer lesbian issue is more likely to lead to a breakup than a second het relationship. Oh, that's like a whole other thing. Yeah, that's like, honestly, it goes back to the fact that heterosexual men in particular, and like people in general, but especially heterosexual men, do not view lesbian relationships as like equally real as relationships, at least, lesbian relationships between two cis women. They do not view as like equal to relationships between even two men or a woman and a man. Like, I heard about this recently. I want to say at some point in European history in the UK, maybe it was in the US. I think it was in the UK though. They were going to pass language in a law that outlawed lesbian sexuality, like made it illegal for women to have heterosexual relationships. But they literally could not figure out how two women would have sex together, and because it didn't involve penetration with the penis. And they were like, never mind, let's not make this illegal because that's not even real sex. And I think that mentality, despite it being very like, I don't know, 18th century coded, still happens. Like, people still feel that way about lesbian relationships. And so initially men are not as threatened by it, right up until she's telling you over the dinner table that actually she's been a lesbian this whole time and isn't really into men, and she's breaking up with you to go move to New Hampshire with, this woman that she met over the internet. That happens. And then suddenly it's real. But until that point, it's like, well, that's like a little pet hobby relationship. That's like a cute little, like, bisexual exploration moment. And, like, I can use it for my wank fantasy, so it's okay. Like, I think, honestly, that's a big part of it, is a lot of men enjoy the idea of two women having sex together, especially when it's one of their partners. And they kind of are like, well, I can also jerk off to that, so it's fine. Whereas they don't want to jerk off to the idea of their spouse or their partner having sex with another man, because then that's kind of gay, I guess. I don't know. Or it's like being cuckolded, and they don't like that. They don't want to be cucked. Being cucked by a woman is fine because it's not real. Oh, the boxes of heterosexuality, how we struggle against them. I also meant hierarchical, more referring to Western outlooks than relationship structures. Oh, yeah, sure. I missed something from Caitlin, it looks like. I'll have to find that later because I can't scroll up to see it. But I probably agree with what everyone else is saying. When I got back, that's when we had the talk where he admitted he actually wasn't okay with me being poly. He just said he was for the whole 18 months. Rolling my eyes into the back of my head. That's a long time to maintain, like, fake being poly. I'm almost impressed, but also I'm angry. Like, I could be impressed, but it just makes me upset. Oh, yeah. Disappointing for sure. Just sit in the hotel cuck chair and accept your fate. Yeah. If you got the cuck chair there, maybe, the fear, the stranglehold of fear. Not even the sexy stranglehold, just the regular one. The fear of gayness and being cucked that a lot of men have that really causes them to limit their partner's ability to explore their sexuality, and it's very sad. Cishet men seem to think ejaculating in, on, around someone around someone. Makes them your property at a rather alarming rate. No risk of jizz. They still own you in their mind. It's pretty gross. Yeah. Yeah, it's like... Wow. They took the words out of my mouth. They're like, well, they didn't come in you, and so that's you don't own your body. Yeah, it's okay to like come. It's okay. Listen, it's okay to like come. I know you all need my permission to feel like it's okay to like coming in something, but also if you're using that as a way to feel like you literally own your partner in real life for real, and not in like a kinky fun way, but in like a it's not even uncommon. Like, I think a lot of people assume this mentality is like an alpha male bullshit thing. Because like they talk about how like, you know, like roasties and like women get used up, and like I've even heard some really, I think people repost fetish stuff without realizing that's what they're doing. Like there was a post that was going around in videos and like in circles that share like bad a bad incel female anatomy, like, you know, they were like, when a man comes in a woman, this parts of the sperm stay inside of her body forever. And it's like, women, I mean, maybe there's a species of animal out there that does this. Women don't have sperm they don't have sperm storage sacs in their, I guess it'd probably be in their uterus if it did exist. You don't actually store sperm for that long. It kind of goes up, it does its thing, or it doesn't, and then it leaves. Like, it doesn't hang out in your body for years. That's crazy. Yeah, so people say dumb shit like that, where they're like, you would literally have a part of a man inside you forever once he comes inside you, and it's like, that's not how we have more microplastics in our bodies permanently than we have pieces of DNA from our partners. If anyone owns us, it's the plastic industry. That's the hot take. That's who really owns the human body. I don't know who manufactures plastic. Johnson & Johnson, let's say that. Procter & Gamble. This would be a hilarious time to join this stream. But you've been here the entire time. Yeah. It would be funny. I just gotta make sure people know that it's okay to like come. But there's a difference between like, I like coming, and like being like, because I jizzed in you, I own your body forever. Like, slow down. Stop conflating your porn thoughts with real life. Porn is fine. Coming is fine. Enjoying both of those things is a normal part of the range of human experiences. Not enjoying those things, also part of the normal range of human experiences. You know what's not part of the normal range of human experiences? Thinking that because you stuck your appendage inside of a person's body, that means that they are like your slave forever. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to do. You didn't earn anything. Sorry. The consent is required. We're not talking about like, I don't know, buying a pet from the pet store, right? It takes more effort than that. Bad biology takes. Exactly. My God, what people think about anatomy is bonkers. Oh yeah, the incel stuff is crazy. I think that's probably the most wild thing that I've seen. Other than sort of like that people probably don't always know about. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there about how like women's vaginas get stretched out permanently from taking lots of Chad's big dicks, which I think is really just a fantasy about how effective their penises are at being penises. And that's not how, for the record, just to clarify for anyone listening, yes, your vagina does expand as you become aroused. Different people's vaginas, the length changes, just like with penile length, as arousal happens. Some of them change a lot. Some of them don't change very much. Some of them are short. Some of them are longer. A lot of it's based on how long your torso is and how tall you are overall as a person. What doesn't happen is there's not a fleshy penis possessed by a human being on this earth that can permanently make your vagina longer all of the time. Unless you maybe have some kind of bizarre connective tissue disorder or like soft tissue thing that I've never heard of in my entire life. That's not how vaginas work. They contract, they expand, they accommodate babies, and they go back to basically where they were before for most people. Pelvic floor issues aside, that's a whole other thing. Pelvic floor issues can change just a little bit, but like, sorry, your penis is not that good. It's not that great. It's not making, I don't know what it is about people thinking their appendages are capable of making permanent changes to the human body. Like, even if you cut someone open, you can literally cut someone open, and that isn't permanent most of the time. Like, if like you get sewn back together, the wound gets closed, that's not permanent. If you can literally open someone's flesh and it can't and it can heal back together again, you just stretching something temporarily is not gonna make it permanently that size. That's not how the body works. Sorry. Anyways, anatomy, good anatomy with Evie Lupine. That's my counterbalance. Yeah, even with HEDS or other hypermobile conditions, you can be a size queen much easier, but it still shrinks afterwards. I guess good to know for all the EDS havers in the chat. I have sort of like thought about that a little bit before, because there's like, obviously if you have a connective tissue disorder, I would imagine that also has an impact on like genitalia and like sex stuff, but I feel like no one ever talks about that. I mean, I guess I haven't really looked into EDS content before, because I don't have EDS, but I feel like that's not one of the main conversations I hear people having about hypermobility or having like connective tissue disorders, is like the way it impacts sex. I feel like if anything, maybe the concern would be like dislocating your pelvis from having rough sex. That feels like something that would probably happen to somebody with EDS. That would probably be a concern. To be fair, most penises are capable of making 9-month changes to the human body. Well, that's the sperm and an egg. That's not technically the penis. A penis actually is not required for that equation. Also, the more a vagina has sex and gets worked out and stretched a lot stronger, more flexible the muscle gets, so stretching it and having lots of sex makes it tighter. I've actually not heard that from like, I don't know, like I would trust like a pelvic floor therapist for something like that. I mean, in general, I think if you have orgasms regularly, like I would definitely imagine that like works out the muscle. I don't know if just having intercourse by itself does anything, but I imagine orgasms would. We talk about it all with each other, but I don't see it on like YouTube videos. Yeah, exactly. I tell you, it's not like, I don't see that as like a facts you need to know about EDS, like 20-minute YouTube video. I've not seen anything with like sex to that degree. It's good to know people are talking about it, because that's an element of support I think is really important for people, because like very few doctors know about EDS or like how to treat it, at least from what I understand. So I imagine like it's going to be even harder to get help with that kind of thing specifically, because you're hoping to find a doctor that not only understands and is okay with human sexuality, but then also understands EDS. And that is, I imagine, a tall order for a lot of people. LMAO, I dislocate my hips just standing up wrong. Whatever does or doesn't happen in sex is kind of a non-issue in that regard and can be fixed with different postures usually. I mean, it's good to know. Good to know it's something that can be worked around. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, you don't normally need to, like my thing is like ripping the Kegel exercises out of people's hands. So many people do Kegels that don't need to be doing them, and they think it's going to solve their problems, but then it makes it worse, which is why I tell people, in case anyone is listening, or maybe you have a partner and you're going to tell them about this later, if you happen to have issues with your pelvic floor, either like that could be a bunch of stuff, right? It could be like issues with bowel movements. It could be issues with urination, with like not being able to hold in your pee anymore, having pain and discomfort during sex. You maybe recently you had a baby, you had some kind of abdominal surgery, like could be a bunch of stuff. You have any issues going on with like anything, like, I mean, honestly, the pelvic floor kind of is connected to everything, from like the spine onward, but anything torso down, if you have a problem with it, talk to a pelvic floor therapist. They're really good. They're very highly educated, and they can give you things that will actually help. And just guessing and being like, Kegels will probably help, is a really great way to make your problem worse and then have no other tools to actually be able to help yourself. So they're great. Fantastic. Love them. Recommend them highly. Yeah, very helpful for lots of issues, pelvic floor therapy. Like so many women, I mean, like, I think this is changing now because we have more conversations about it, but so many women have spent like their adult years dealing with incontinence issues. And this is kind of a joke to like, oh, well, after you have a baby, like when you sneeze, you end up peeing a little bit. Like that should not, like, it's okay if it happens. Like it's not a moral failure, but also you're not condemned to that life anymore. Like you can actually talk to someone that can help you work through that. And it's not always affordable. It's not always accessible to everyone. It can be hard to get in to see someone, just like it's hard to get in to see any kind of doctor. But there are options that are out there. Yeah. I have lots of moments where I'm like, oh, we just need to change position. X joint just pop down and back in. I'm like laughing because it's, I don't know. It's like kind of, I appreciate the candor, just like being like it, because I think it's representative of like, you can have like things like go wrong during sex and it's just like, it's part of life. And you can just be like, hey, this thing happened. Let's do something about it. And so many people struggle with that. So many people have difficulties with talking to their partner about stuff, with like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. And like, especially if you've been with partners who reinforce that shame and reinforce you and are like, oh, gross. Like, why were you like that? That's so disgusting. If you have partners that are like that, it makes it really hard to like get over that. But hopefully with time, we can all find partners that are not participating in the shame culture around sex and can help us feel better about our bodies and the many myriad terrible things they are capable of doing to us in the middle of sex. I mean, that's a whole other thing. A lot of people have problems in their muscle groups where you're both too tight and too weak. Like that happens a lot with like posture issues. Like a lot of people have both overly tight and overly weak muscles in their chest and in their back. Like usually chest muscles are both weak and tight, and then your back muscles can be stretched out, but then also be very weak. And like it just ends up causing all kinds of like cascading issues. Oh, just send in a Streamlabs donation. Well, it should pop up. I can open it up. I can also open up the Streamlabs thing, just in case it doesn't. There was an OBS update, so it's possible that Streamlabs isn't syncing with the update. That would be weird if it did not sync. But I do have donations turned on, so it should just work. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it's just being shitty. Keeping hydrated too. Oh yeah. Being hydrated is a big one for pelvic floor stuff. All right, I'm opening up my my widgets. There's so many options. I don't want to upgrade to Ultra. I just want to see my alert history. Okay. Oh, recent events is probably what I need to be looking at. Hey Evie, I went to my first munch the Wednesday before last and it was great. Thank you so much for the content you do. It was what made me feel informed enough and encouraged to take that jump in. Well, congratulations, Snow Leaves. I'm very glad that worked out for you. Thank you for sharing. Munches are fantastic and I'm glad that worked out for you. Awesome. Munches are good stuff. All right. Now that it's been an hour and I've answered one question and then talked about penises for 20 minutes, let's get into answering some other questions. Yeah, she is lounging for real. I'm actually going to try to move. Can I get an aerial shot? Hi, baby. I didn't mean to wake you up, my sweetheart. I just wanted to get more of you on the camera. That's all I wanted. Yeah. Look at this sweet face. Sleepy time. For realsies. Okay, all right, let's get into some more questions. And by more questions, I mean greater than one. Thank you all so much for your patience with me. I appreciate it. Sometimes we have a big conversation. That's how it goes. Talking about breakup stuff. I just want you to know that I am so happy in my DS relationship. I want you to know it is all because of the insight I've received from you over the last 5 years or so. You are so informative. You are so welcome, Brittany. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear you're having an amazing DS relationship. That is fantastic. And I'm very happy to help with that. I definitely stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say in that regard. And I am glad I can help you figure those things out. Because I have certainly learned a lot over the years of how to do and not to do power exchange. And I am grateful that people can learn from my mistakes or things that I have observed. Hello, Lexi. Hope you are doing well. Welcome, welcome. Okay, what a noble creature. She is indeed a noble creature. Oh my gosh. Her little snooty snoot. Look at that. Snoozy mode for real. Okay. Looking for questions. Scanning. Yeah, God, there were so many other good sex ed resources for kinky folks when I was in high school aimed at me and my peers. There's like nothing now. Yeah, the internet just took all those away. I have a question. Can a masochist be a dominant? Short answer is yes, so I will not hold you in suspense over that one. The answer of how you do that is a little bit of a different question. I would say it's difficult to balance because not very many people who want to be submissive are also sadists. I'm sort of the opposite of this coin, Gen Z, where I am submissive, but I'm also a masochist. And a sadist. I'm much more of a sadist than I am a masochist. So I've sort of been on the opposite end of this quite a few times. But for that particular arrangement, I think usually what helps people feel like they can provide the sort of stimulation you're probably looking for is thinking about it in like an orders context. Like, I am being ordered to do this thing to my partner because they really enjoyed it and it's for their pleasure. And it can actually be an even higher test of somebody's willingness to submit because they're explicitly not doing something that they enjoy and they're not getting maybe anything out of it themselves other than your enjoyment of the experience. And you can be very precise and very direct about like, I want this, and this, and I don't want this, and I want you to hit the left cheek 2 more times. And like, you can be anywhere in the range of like very almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Overbearing. Control freak. Yeah, control freak. You give me control freak level about it where you're like, I want you to hit me with a flogger on my butt for 20 times and then you want you to do this. And like, you can plan a whole scene for them and be like, do this for me. Or you can be, more loose with it and you can just say, I want you to do things that please me and I'll let you know when I dislike it. It can also help some people if you're okay with also not just receiving stuff, but giving stuff too, if you can implement a degree of sadism. Some people also can enjoy it more if it's like, ooh, if you mess up, I'm gonna punish you. Like if for every time I can tell that you don't hit me correctly, or you miss a stroke, or I just don't like what you're doing, I'm gonna hit you back, or I'm gonna pinch you, or I'm gonna make a tally, and then later I'm gonna punish you for not doing a good enough job at giving me what I want. So that's sort of like, I think how a lot of people think about it. And, it sort of depends on like, are you in a DS relationship already? How much do you want your dominance to come into your masochism? Cause also like the other option for this, right, is you just, and this is like more like my style. And I think a lot of people end up doing this probably more commonly than what I just talked about, is you have like dominant side where you're dominant and you have relationships with subs, but you don't bring the masochism into that at all. And you're a masochist, maybe you're just doing pickup play, you're playing with friends, and you're not putting power exchange in it, and you're just keeping a very egalitarian, I guess also sort of equilateral. You're having an egalitarian relationship as a masochist to a sadist, and it's not a power exchange thing. You're not giving up control to anybody. You're just two people having a fun sadomasochistic experience together, if that makes sense. So there's sort of doing it as two separate things, or if you're trying to have it all happen in one relationship together, that's a different way of doing it. I would probably be very praising, to be honest. Oh yeah, that's like a whole other thing. You can definitely go in the like praise kink direction of like, you're doing so amazing, sweetie. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Like that also works too. I don't have as much experience with seeing that being done, but it's certainly also possible. I'm just giving one example of how it can be done. There's so many different role play flavors, from praise kink to humiliation play to degradation, all kinds of different like animal role play stuff. There's so many layers you could put on there to give it maybe a flavor that you personally like to do. So just because I give a suggestion does not mean it's the only way of doing something. There's always like, for the most part, unless I'm talking about like something with like, I don't know, consent, there's probably like 10 other ways to go about something. I'm being discreet about an old friend of yours. I don't know what that means. I don't think I have any. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Gonna focus on answering questions, but I also just say I still don't know what you're talking about. Next question. Resources for teens. A lot of it is the amplification, I think, appification. Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Appification, like everything is on apps now. Back in the aughts, every community had dozens of independently hosted forums that people would donate to host, so they didn't. Oh yeah. I remember back in the heyday. I loved forums. Forums were great. Great resource. No longer as much of a thing these days, sadly. Still, some of them are still around, mostly the bad ones, but some of them. We agreed to do the no contact, let the feelings settle. There was no ghosting. Okay, that's good. Glad to hear that. Nah. Somehow I've gotten too close to the dog. You can kind of see a little bit of the bow she has on it. So cute. She has a little strawberry bow in her hair. She literally looks like a loaf. She looks like this is the most loaf shaped. She looks like a caterpillar. My dog looks like a caterpillar right now. Oh, delightful. So cute. Caterpillar with tiny ears. So they didn't need advertisers now that everything is on the same 5 apps if they don't want to host it, or it conflicts with focus on the family like community standards, it just gets shut down. Yep. Everything is owned by like 2 companies. Sad. We actually have a day out planned on the 25th. The worry I have is, will friendship ever be enough after what we had, and I'm inevitably going to be jealous of her and her girlfriend's relationship. I mean, that's valid. I guess you won't know until you get there for sure, because feelings can change. Like, you might find another relationship, and I think for me, like, this is not even necessarily like this is what I think the best option is, but this is probably what I would do, is if I was like really mourning a relationship because I thought what we had was really special, I would probably need more time away from that relationship, because I think there would be too much of a draw to try and like hold on to the old feelings. Although you might find that like taking a break for a couple weeks by itself is enough, and then you're able to kind of get to something more level set with where you're currently at with your relationship. And maybe you just say like, hey, I love hanging out with you and I want to keep like contact with you, but you might also just say like, I don't really want to know about your other relationships. Like, just, we'll have it go both ways. I'm happy to still stay connected, but I don't really want to like, talk about dates or who we're dating. And I'm just happy not knowing. That can also work. I know like don't ask, don't tell is not a popular promoted option for polyamory, but I feel like in the case of a breakup where you're trying to learn how to be friends with each other, initially, when that feeling is still really raw, I feel like it's a perfectly valid choice to be like, actually, I don't want to know about that stuff. And like, frankly, I think there's also probably people out there that will say, oh, like, I don't want to do that. I want you to know everything. And they're going to I don't think they would do this from what how you've described this breakup process, but like theoretically that people will go out there and will be like, actually, I'm dating all these people. Look at all these dates I'm going on. I don't miss you at all. I don't need you. And they'll kind of rub it in your face to make you jealous. And like, that's not healthy. Hopefully they wouldn't do that. But the reality is that some people do. And that's like a mentality I don't understand, but some people are that way. Some people, when they go through a breakup, they just want to make it as painful as possible for the other person. Yeah, I really hope people start hosting their own forums again as Reddit gets shitified. It's pretty cheap, like $20 a month to host and $30 a month for email services, and you can easily raise that with a few dozen users. I feel like that would be really fun. I don't know how, like, I think honestly probably the main problem with forums is with Google being in shitified itself. How do people find forums? Because like Reddit works because Reddit's like essentially like a hub for micro forums of all different kinds. And if you didn't have Reddit, it'd be a lot harder to like, people go to like r/, pics. They don't go to like the photo dump forum or whatever. The kind of the only exception I can think of, again, it's like Mumsnet is still around. I don't even know if it's really a forum, but that's one I've heard of quite a bit, and I think that's still around. And there's like, I know there's like a gymnastics forum. There's like a couple other things, but yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I did make a video on dominant masochists and submissive sadists. That's relatively recently, actually, a couple months ago, I think. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. Obviously, it's very niche. It did not necessarily get a ton of views, but it is on my channel. So if you search for either dominant masochist, submissive sadist, it should probably pop up. Or even just dom, sub, whatever. I think all those terms are in the keywords. Is FetLife a forum? I mean, I guess FetLife has groups. Are those forums? I don't know. I guess in a weird way, FetLife is kind of like a fetish Reddit aggregator where the groups are like subreddits. I had never thought of it that way before. But I don't really feel like there's like a couple of groups I see people posting a lot when I'm on FetLife, but I feel like, again, it's not really like a big hub for things. And I feel like people don't use FetLife the way that people would have traditionally used a forum. Anyways, good thoughts. Interesting stuff. More of what kink has been on your mind lately. What kink has been on my mind lately? I feel like I was thinking about so many different stuff. I feel like rope bondage is kind of like becoming an interest of mine again. I go kind of in and out of it. I found it like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if this is like the personality that attracts like rope bondage people. I meet a lot of people that are like very interested in rope bondage, and then they like can't stay like into it. They kind of like flit from interest to interest. Or they end up being like, yeah, it sounds really amazing. And then they end up like not actually working out as a like long-term tying partner, because usually they've got like other issues going on that disqualify them from being a long-term partner. Or being like a regular tying partner, like something. There's a lot of things going on there. So rope's kind of coming back into focus, and like kind of just primal play. Honestly, the last like couple years of my life has been like very like primal play focused, which I'm very happy with. I like that. It's interesting to see how like my kink journey has evolved that way. That's probably where I'm happiest, honestly. Like that's my even more so kind of predating like power exchange, pet play stuff. I really like all that stuff, but ultimately, like my ideal relationship, like primal play is really the basis for it. And that's like DS and like pet play is like ways of letting that out in different flavors. But primal play is like the core kink, That's me. It's about as personal as I'm willing to get. Is not to get into specifics with anything with that. I'll just say that like primal play is probably like the big one, which I don't really know if that like, I don't know, because I don't talk about primal play on my channel because I've found it to be very difficult to talk about. I have a video I did for it last year for the Kink bundle. I've talked about it before on like Patreon and stuff here and there. And I have like one video I did on predator and prey that is like a couple years old at this point. But I don't really talk about it on my channel because it is so personal. And like I feel like with primal play, it's so hard to talk about it in a way that's depersonalized. Like with bondage, you can just kind of like talk about different types of bondage, but I think because primal play relies so much on like individual emotional experiences and like rawness and vulnerability, it's really hard to talk about it without ultimately just like revealing a lot about yourself, I guess, and like very personal interests. Yeah, rope bondage is a very demanding kink. Yeah, it's very like, I mean, honestly, that's like one of the things, I don't know if this is a myth exactly. I mean, because like doing rope bondage at a certain level is certainly very demanding, but, and this is something I'm like trying to like get people to understand more. This is like a thing I'm trying to communicate. As long as you know the like basic safety stuff, you have safety shears, you got some good quality rope, you can take like a 30-foot piece of rope, tie it off to like a body part somewhere. Tie it off around a torso, an ankle, a wrist. Don't tie it around the neck, basically. Don't tie it around the neck and don't tie it around the balls, and you're probably fine. And then you can have a whole scene just based on like moving the rope different ways, creating tension with it. As long as the person is open to that sensory experience, I find a lot of people enjoy it. I'm actually, I'm thinking about ways of having more of a conversation around that, because I think that's every single time I've taken a class on rope bondage and we've gotten to the point of just like having a very improvisational approach to rope, where we're not tying a certain form, we're not tying a pattern, we're not trying to do any like shibari shit or whatever, we're just taking a piece of rope and we're putting it around the person, and sometimes maybe we're doing frictions, maybe we're not. Like there's like something called like one rope technique that gets referred to quite a bit, and this is more or less that. I'm not even trying to say that because I think that has like some specific shibari connotations to it, and usually it's like a one piece of rope that's like, at least in my experience of doing it, it's like one piece of rope, but it's not doubled over, so it's quite a bit longer. And I found that to be quite nice when you can get to that point of just like organically experimenting with what feels really good, and then you're not dealing with like all the shit you got to worry about with rope in terms of like how long you're leaving it tied on for, how much load is it under, because you're not doing any of that, because you're not tying any knots, you're not, like, it's just so much easier to manage, and so much less can go wrong, because as soon as you like let go, the rope falls off, unless you put a bunch of frictions in it, and that's a little bit more sturdy. But yeah. Do you prefer like nylon rope play or like more shibari style? I don't really like that. Like nylon, I feel like burns too much. I'm not like a huge fan of it. I'll use it for certain things because it's beneficial for that. I really like posh if I'm going to be tying with a synthetic. I have to be honest, I used to be a big old jute hater. I have very old live streams that are no longer available where I've talked about like I like not liking jute, but the jute market has changed, okay? The jute market has changed, people. There is actually there's probably get it from other places, but there is a South African, of all places, a South African jute rope manufacturer called Pseudo Jute, and they make very high quality jute rope that does not have what's called JBO or jute batching oil in it, which can cause skin irritation. And it's so high quality. It's so nicely made. I really like that because it's a lot lighter and it's better for, I mean, hemp has it, like, it sort of depends on the feeling you're going for. I feel like hemp is very, like slow and heavy. And if you're tying with somebody who's like a larger bodied person, it sort of, I don't know, scales with them, if that makes sense. But if you're tying with someone who's like, I mean, sort of like me, I'm very much, not necessarily just pure speed. Like I'm not trying to tie as fast as possible, but I like the feeling of like the lightness of it. I feel like this is very like woo woo, but like, okay. I feel like when I'm tying with jute, because it's so light, it puts less between me and the person I'm tying. Whereas hemp sort of makes its presence known. Like you're very cognizant of like the rope being sort of its own character in this scene. I feel like I sound crazy saying this, so hopefully this makes sense to someone. I feel like hemp is like, because it's so weighty, it's like slower. Some people describe it as dead, which I feel like I don't feel that way. But it's a presence, whereas jute, I feel like it's more of like a natural extension, and because it's so light. But I also like the texture of jute rope a little bit more. I'm like a scratchy person, so I like scratchy sensations, and jute definitely like offers that more, especially before it's been like fully worn in. But hopefully that makes sense. I'm a fan of real cotton for non-suspension stuff. Easy to find, affordable, and easy on the skin. Oh yeah, that's true. I haven't tied too much with cotton. I don't have any strong opinions about cotton, I guess, other than don't use it for suspension because it stretches under tension. But it's a classic for American style bondage. So it's, don't knock the classics. Honestly, anyone who's worried about being a chaser probably is not one. Oh, that is not related to rope at all. Yeah, if you have to say, but I'm not a chaser. A lot of statements like that. If you have to say, but I'm not a blank. Are you sure? Yeah. Yep. Anyways, that's my rope thoughts. And I feel like actually rope play goes like pretty well with primal play. I think it's not a connection a lot of people make, but like we're gonna talk about it. But I feel like there's a connection. You have to be very thoughtful with the way you're doing it. You can't just just meet someone and then be like, let's do primal play with rope, and like that's how you end up with like getting pretty significantly injured by a stranger, and in a scary predicament. So it's definitely a trusted partner thing. Mm-hmm. Not a random any old guy you meet at a rope jam or on FetLife activity. Honestly, probably don't do any kind of bondage with anyone you meet randomly on FetLife. That's probably not a great place to start. Go to a coffee shop, talk to each other. Do that first. That's probably better. Long term anyways. Good question, though. TPE equals total power exchange? Yes. TPE stands for total power exchange. You are correct. It's genuinely kind of weird how I've been incapable of getting angry about this. Sexuality is not a choice and it's nobody's fault. The point of grief is pretty good, though. I'm going through stages. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good you're not like in a place of like blaming the other person. I think ultimately that's probably healthier. Better for your mental state. I posted a link if it was allowed here, but getting an Evie Lupine a kink community website, community education wiki and forum would be super doable. Just don't have the time myself. I mean, hey, if we could come up with like a group of people that would be willing to put that together, I would be totally down. I know like Discord's not really for everyone. It's like it's very Zoomery, but maybe having some kind of like forum community combo thing would be fun. I would be down to like financially facilitate that happening if there were enough people who felt like they could work on it, had the skill set to make that happen. But I have to have people that could be moderators for it, because like I cannot moderate that on top of everything else. That would be too much. But yeah, it would be something I would be interested in seeing as well. What item or items of clothing do you think are underrated and should be more popular? Mine is turtlenecks and berets. What item of, I forget what they're called. I always say this wrong. I think it's, is it, what? I gotta Google this shit. Does it tell me how to? But palazzo pants, is that what they are? It's PALAZZO. Palazzo pants. I fucking love those pants. I have like probably five pairs of like super wide leg pants and like palazzo pants. I love doing a really form fitted top with like a very wide, almost skirt like pant. That's like my favorite look. What I don't really know. What else do I think is overrated? Or not rated highly enough? On like people in general, I feel like sleeveless shirts are underrated. I feel like sleeveless shirts are, I've been wearing them a lot more. I'm generally wearing one right now. I've kind of moved from team t-shirt into team sleeveless shirt territory as I've gotten older. Those are probably the two things I like the most. I feel like everything else I like is like people who have the same fashion sense as me are into it. Like, people like layers. I like jumpsuits, actually. I feel like jumpsuits kind of had a moment recently, though. I don't really know if they're underrated. Palazzo. Wait, but there's no, where's the T sound? Where's the T sound come from? Is that, not, harem pants are different because they have they have like a tight cuff on the bottom, whereas these ones are like looser. All right, I'll just, cargo shorts. Oh yeah, cargo jeans actually are having a moment. I've not found a pair of cargo jeans that I like. I love the idea of having, like a really wide leg cargo pants. I feel like that would be a cute look. I feel like it's very Kim Possible, and I love that. I feel like Kim Possible's look is like fully back on trend. I mean, I don't know if a straight jacket counts as a fashion item. I guess it probably is for some people. Interesting question, though. She is a master at relaxing for all of life, actually. She just goes to sleep wherever she feels like. And she's like, I'm comfortable here because I'm literally made out of cotton candy. And so everything's comfortable. She was like bouncing off the walls earlier that we went outside. She got it kind of out of her system. Went to my first munch Wednesday before last, and it was great. Thank you for making content you do. It was what encouraged, what made me feel informed enough and encouraged to take a jump in. Oh yeah, that super chat never showed up. I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that because it's not, for some reason my Streamlabs is not syncing with OBS, and that should not be a problem. So I'll have to double check that. Since you did a 10 changes in the community over 10 years video, would you be open to talking about some important growth or lessons that you've learned, read Kink, Poly, A stuff over the last decade? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I'd be totally open to doing that. I guess I hadn't I'll do that maybe next year when it is actually 10 years. Because I was like, I've technically been in the community for 9 years, not a full decade yet, but I feel like sort of a personal reflections of, because it'd both be like, my reflecting on my 20s and also be like reflecting on 10 years in the community. And I feel like, and like also just like Kink stuff and Poly stuff and A stuff more broadly, not even just like my own journey. I feel like that actually would be interesting. I can't promise I'm going to remember this time next year to do that, but I will, it'll be on a list somewhere. It'll be in a list. Cloaks. Oh yeah. A good quality cloak. Oh yeah. Not enough people have cloaks, and they're great for the dungeon if you're cold afterwards. It's basically like a blanket you're socially allowed to wear. It's fantastic. Oh my gosh. My partner and best friend of 26 years passed in April. Very sorry, comma. We weren't married, and the number of people who have said, "Why are you sad? You weren't married," is disgusting. Do people realize that, like, marriage doesn't make you care about someone more? I feel like even amongst people who are actually married and have experienced life, there's still a belief that, like, marriage gives you some kind of special metaphysical property to your relationship. Where like, well, before we were married, we were just boyfriend and girlfriend. Now we really love each other because we're married. And like, if you're waiting on feelings to happen until after you get married, that's like not going to work. Don't do that. That's my advice. Don't do that. I'm shocked. I'm not shocked. I'm shocked at that, like, that's a thing in society that happens, like, very sad. But again, I'm sorry, comma. I'm sorry that people were not more supportive. There are people like that. People don't like to talk about it. And this is something I could say about sort of the poly versus monogamy discourse. A lot of people who are very strongly anti-poly and think that polyamory is disgusting and weird have a bizarre superiority complex about marriage and getting married. And I think polyamory, especially polyamory where no one involved is married, makes people uncomfortable because it's such a deviation from the like thing you're supposed to do that when people see it being successful, they're like just threatened by it because like, but marriage between a man and a woman is supposed to be the best thing forever that God designed just for us. What do you mean you're not doing that? Like, come on now, unnecessary. Just let people live. Married here, marriage gives you tax breaks. Been married for over 10 years and not much change except for tax breaks. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's really the only thing. Is you get a break. Listen, if you get a break on your taxes and then that means you can go on a vacation, maybe that does make you, maybe you feel more relaxed. Maybe you have like another positive memory together because you got to do something else with the money you would have spent on taxes. Okay, sure. But outside of that, very slim, marginal, extra level of happiness, marriage is not like and then suddenly the heavens opened and a glowing ray of light beamed down upon my partner, and suddenly I felt this amazing feeling towards them I'd never felt before. Yeah, not other than maybe marriage being a nice way of like consolidating how strongly you feel about a person. It's not gonna like make new feelings happen. I view marriage as a commitment. This can obviously be bonding for people. If you were with someone for 20 plus years, then why would anyone question the level of commitment? Yeah. I mean, like, I think if it's sort of like this is a marking of the passage into a new level of commitment in our relationship, that makes sense. But yeah, if you're with someone for a decade, like that's longer than a lot of marriages last, including the portion of the relationship before they got married. You know how many people like know each other for 2 years and then get married after a year and then are married for 2 years and then get divorced? A lot of people are in and out of a relationship, marriage and divorce, within 10 years. Like, it happens. It absolutely happens. Marriage to defraud the government for health insurance purposes is, I'm going to say, no comment, but I understand the desire to do that because healthcare in America sucks. And if you got that sweet government, money, like, throw it around. It's your tax money. Might as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day. Here in the UK, we split up Pride between June, July, and August and September. Whoa! 4 months of Pride. That's honestly pretty cool. It's handy because some people go to multiple Prides, a different city each weekend, all summer long. Yeah, here in Portland, we do most of our Pride stuff in July. So I think that makes sense. But for the whole country to have it split up between the whole summer is pretty fun. I like that. The Pride March was in mid-July because there's also a concert and face paint, etc. event called Pride in the Park in September. That sounds so fun. That sounds delightful. Face painting. Gay face painting. I love it. They're painting the children gay in the park. They're putting rainbows on the children's faces. They're indoctrinating them into the gay agenda with the face paint. That's how I'm joking, but I also fully expect that to be like a Fox News segment if it ever happened for real. You know that Ben Shapiro is doing a segment if he gets a hold of a photo of a child with rainbow face paint on at a Pride parade. He's just not going to help himself. He can't do it. He can't. It's technically not fraud unless you marry under a false identity. Oh. Uh-oh. Was somebody Fed posting in the chat about health insurance? I hope not. Oh, every town has a different date for Pride in the UK. It's not always Pride Month. Oh, okay. So I see. It's not like collectively you've decided to spread it out. It's just like different regions decide. The Pride Month for, I don't know. I'm trying to think of one that wasn't already said. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Liverpool, let's just go with that one. Like the Liverpool's like, we're gonna do ours this month, and then Manchester's like, we're gonna do it for this month, and then Bristol's like, we're gonna do it for the whole month of June, and then and that's how it works out. I like that actually. Spread out. Good way to make sure everyone can imagine being able to do like a Pride Month summer tour of the UK where you just go to every Pride event. That would be fun. I'm sure somebody's done that before. I don't know if they would have documented it, but also doing it for 4 months, maybe it would get tiring after that long. Okay, so we are coming up on 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and say now, because I've especially been rambling today, if I've not answered your question, please go ahead and ask it again now. Put it in the chat, and I will try to get to it as soon as I can. We're going to do a little bit more of like a speed round type situation. So just keep your wits about you. Speed round is happening. I'm going to give thorough answers, but I'm maybe not going to linger as long as I would otherwise, giving endless extra details as I am wont to do. Weird things are going really well outside of this. A friend just escalated to friends with benefits. Ooh, congratulations. And it took a group of girls around my place after a munch this weekend to practice rope, but it still feels hard. Yeah, I mean, it's going to feel hard, but I mean, look, you're heading in the right direction. You're getting some people. You're hanging out with people. I love that when you get to like, you go to a munch and then like somebody's like, hey, want to go hang out? Like you get a whole group of people and you hang out more after the munch. That's where friendships are made. That's where friendships are made. That's all I'm going to say. Oh my God. He confessed he only accepted my being poly in the hopes he could like IDK term monogamous. Oh, it was a cowboy thing. Oh. Disappointing, but there's a reason we have a term for it. I guess he didn't say it outright, but he'd hoped he would be able to charm me enough. Listen, that's the messaging people are sent. I can't be that mad. Like, that is what people are shown in media, is that, like, if you're really special and you're really hot and the person really likes you, you'll be able to steal them away from your love rival. Like, that's like, isn't that the whole thing of, like, love triangles? Is it's like, you can just, like, be better and then they're not going to want to be with anyone else because you're so amazing. Like, I don't know if people realize this, but polyamory is not a journey you take to try to find the best person possible and like ladder climb. I feel like that's probably how like incels feel about it, but that's actually not what polyamory is supposed to be about. Am I dumb at kink, or there are just a lot of actually people in the community? There might be. I think there's probably an overlap. Considering all the other nerd things that kinky people are into, I'm assuming there's an overlap with the people who are fans of actually. Speed round question, master or mistress? As like a term or a person to have a relationship with? I prefer the term master. I don't like the term mistress at all. But person to have a relationship with, if the choice is really male dom or female dom, I'd probably choose female dom. That's my honest answer. All right, have a good night, Billy Bomb. See you later. He accepted my being trans, but was only ever anxious about other partners when they were trans women. Cis women and cis guys were whatever. Interesting. People do be like that sometimes. A question for you. How can I know if I'm interested in polyamory or if I just want to be in an open relationship while introducing kink, and any advice for dating again? Oh my gosh, this could be like a whole video worth of answers. How can I know if I'm interested in polyamory if I just want to be in a relationship while introducing kink? Okay, well, step one is don't try both kink and poly or open relationships in any combination for the first time together all at once. That is a recipe for like overwhelming yourself, not being able to set boundaries well because you don't really know what you're getting into yet. Pick one thing. Pick either kink or non-monogamy and then build from there. I would probably, depends on what you're more interested in. I think it is, because of how the messaging around monogamy works in our society, I think it's a lot harder to know if you're going to be into polyamory until before you try it. I feel like for me, when I had this question initially and I was like, is polyamory going to be for me? Am I going to be down for this? I read a lot of books about polyamory, and there's so many, especially these days, there's so many. There's, I think probably the best one for me I liked was Opening Up. Opening up is really good because that gives a broader overview of both like polyamory and open relationships. So I'd probably start there, read that, see if anything resonates with you in that, and then keep reading. And then if you can visualize yourself in some of those relationships, or it sounds something that you could be happy with, then I think you probably know enough to know if you're like willing to try it. But also you can try to like it, and that's like totally okay. And then you can try kink separately, but don't introduce both, because that's how you end up just overwhelming yourself, and that's not a good thing. I think you missed my clarifying message, so I accidentally wrote cis guy instead of trans guy back then. LOL. Cis women and trans guys, aka no non-rubber dicks. You didn't care as much. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Not the normal ways that people feel about that, but that's a layer of complexity I don't typically interact with. I love my makeup. Oh, thank you. Okay, we are scanning. We're scanning for questions. Yes, scanning for questions. Like a little robot. We're talking about physical therapy. We're talking about pelvic floor stuff. Making my own theme music. I feel like I'm reminding myself of The Emperor's New Groove. Best movie, honestly. Best Disney movie. I love The Emperor's New Groove. It's like I can always, as an adult, I can still watch it. Also, Road to El Dorado. Those two are like S tier animated movies. Still looking for questions. We were like talking about a bunch of stuff. We're talking about rope. We're all doing all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to figure out where the cutoff is from when we started like me announcing it was speed round question time. Oh my God. One night the upstairs neighbors were having sex. The footboard of the bed popped off. The bed fell and they rolled off the bed. They started laughing hysterically. I love that you know that story from like the neighbor's point of view, where you just like heard all of this happen. That is very funny. Glad also, I'm assuming that they were physically okay, but that's like movie material right there. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Primal play is a great umbrella term. I love it. Can someone explain primal play in a short bit? I've never heard of it. Oh, Jesus. You've asked me the thing that's hardest to answer in a short period of time. Primal play is basically where I feel like I normally hear it discussed as like primal play is like a form of role play you do in kink where you are taking on like sort of an animalistic instinctual role with your partner, and instead of like consciously being like I am acting like a dog, like you'd be like with pet play, or like I'm acting like a baby, like you would in ABDL, like it's not that kind of role play. Like you're just operating off of like instinct, sensory experiences. Oftentimes it involves like being nonverbal, and just like vulnerability plus vulnerability plus sensory seeking plus like intuition and following instinct. That's sort of how I would quickly describe primal play. If I had to do it, obviously, short time, not getting a moment to really think and prepare an answer, that's how I'd think about it. I don't think that cutting rope is sacrilege. I think that you should be prepared to cut rope whenever necessary. Rope is like, if you're getting real spendy with it, maybe like $40, $50 a length. And honestly, I've heard, like, I think Twisted Monk and a couple other places, if you have to cut rope to keep somebody safe, they will either reimburse you for the cost of the rope or they will send you a new one, because they don't want people to keep someone in rope when it's dangerous, because like, well, the rope's so expensive and like I should just try to untie everything first instead. Like, no, cut through the fucking rope. Like, don't mess about. Don't like try to be delicate. Just go for it. But that's my opinion. And by my opinion, I mean that's probably how you should do things. I'm sure there's a circumstance where you could probably get away with just untying it the regular way, but you can't always know until after it happened, and that's something you don't really want to figure out you did the wrong way after the fact. Came across a sort of rom-com with Kink. Oh, Jency, boy, do we know this movie. It's a Korean movie called Love and Leashes on Netflix. Have you seen it? I saw a bit because so flustered I had to take a break. Oh, that's delightful. I've actually watched it on stream, and I've also made a video review of it. If you search my channel for Love and Leashes, I have a video review of it. I don't know if it is still easy to find or not. I don't know if it stayed in the algorithm's good graces, considering the subject material and the fact I have clips from the movie in it. I thought it was very fun. I really liked it. I can see why it would potentially make someone flustered. And to me, it's still to this day probably, not that it's old, but is probably the best representation of kink we've had in a movie, especially to the modern standard we currently have for talking about kink. Do you have any tips for figuring out whether topping or bottoming is more appealing to you? Currently not in a place where I can do practical play, but still want to work on self-discovery. I mean, that's hard. I mean, you can, like, solo play, I don't really think gives you a lot of information about whether or not you want to top or bottom to someone else. Not in a place where you can do practical play. So you probably don't have access to, like, the community, because I feel like sometimes watching other people do scenes can be helpful for figuring out, like, which role you kind of see yourself in more. I feel like the test I've heard from people sometimes is, like, when you picture yourself, like, doing kink right now, like, if you close your eyes, what do you picture yourself doing? Do you picture yourself, are you on a spanking bench getting spanked? Are you the one doing the spanking? Are you getting tied up? Just sort of, like, snap, don't think about it, just, like, let the vision happen of, like, you doing kink. What does that look like? I think it's potentially harder to know until you try it. Also, switching is a thing. So you might just be a switch. You might just be someone who's, like, equally enthusiastic about either one, and you're happy to do either role. I think typically topping for new people tends to make them more nervous. So if they're a switch, they tend to start with bottoming, get their feet kind of underneath them, and then branch out into topping as they get more experience and get more known in the local community and, like, meet people. But that's probably the only way you can really tell without actually trying it. But it's also likely you probably just like both, and that's a very normal thing. My first partner told me I was a bottom, and I internalized it a lot, so I have some uncertainty about my own feelings. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, and this is, like, an important life thing to know for, like, anything, relationships, kink, dating, whatever, your career, anything, doesn't matter. You know yourself best. Other people may have insight into certain things you can't see in yourself, like the way your laugh sounds, or your funny quirks, like the way your face looks when you eat a pickle. Sure, they could notice that stuff. But when it comes to, like, who you are inside and what motivates you and what you enjoy about experiencing life, only you can really know that. Other people can have a guess. Other people maybe see one side of you, but they don't necessarily see all of you. So just because somebody says that you're a bottom, like, it's hard when that's, like, a formative experience with somebody maybe that you were really close to or whose opinion you trusted a lot or whatever. It's hard, but also, like, they get to see one side and have their opinion, but their opinion doesn't have to be your opinion. You can have your own opinion. And also, we don't talk about this, but your feelings can change over time too, Riley. You can start out being someone who is, like, very bottomy and, like, only wants to submit, only wants to, like, receive stuff, isn't really interested in giving. And then as you learn more stuff, as you try things, as you find new people that maybe unlock certain parts of your brain, that you can change. You can end up being like, well, I thought I was just a bottom, but then I met this person and suddenly I, like, really like the idea of, like, getting to time up. And, like, that happens all the time. Very common experience for people. So don't let one person from who knows how long ago dictate your whole kink experience. And also, like, I think a lot of it honestly has to do with, like, masculinity and shit. Like, I think a lot of people feel like submissives are feminine and receptive and blah, blah, blah. And doms are always, like, either they're, like, cold and dispassionate or they're domineering and aggressive. And, like, I think a lot of people, if you're, like, shy, bookish, nerdy, quiet, keep to yourself, people see that as incompatible with dominance or being at top even, when that's not actually the case at all. Lots of very nerdy, quiet people are doms and tops too. There's nothing implicit in a certain personality trait that means, like, you're a bottom or you're a sub or you're a dom or a top or whatever. It's all individual. Okay, couple more questions here. We got about 5 more minutes. Trying to keep an eye on both chats here. So much tea spilling happens. So much tea spilling. Ba-ba-dum. Oh, that's why everyone was talking about the blaha, the like shark thing. I was like, why are we all talking about the shark thing? Now I know. Now I'm up to speed on what my chat was talking about 20 minutes ago about a shark stuffy from IKEA. That's what the politicians here in Tennessee think about Pride festivities. All of them jerks. Disappointing. Not surprising, but disappointing. Okay, answered that question already. Thank you, wise guy. Oh my gosh, $20. That's so amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I would summon my dog, but as you can see, she's in like full loaf mode, and I do not want to disturb her until I absolutely have to. Thank you. It's a pear looking at himself in the mirror saying, thanks for being you, which is very sweet. Thank you. Okay. Every community has now a lot of actually, and it's just so sad. Oh yeah, that's also the like literally people being like, actually, you can only do primal play if you don't do power exchange. Like a lot of people who say dumb shit like that, like, oh, there's no power. I literally I feel this is gonna make me sound like a crazy bitch, but I didn't like make it dramatic. It was a very like go in and out as you please kind of thing. But I was at a primal play meetup with like a new group of people, and I was like so excited about it. I was like, my people, primal play, I love it. And then a bunch of the people that were, maybe I should make a video talking about like the problem with primal play. That actually would probably be a banger video. So I think I might like I have a whole bunch of stories about stuff like this. So I might make a video called the problem with primal play. And then people are going to be like, the problem with what? And then it's going to I'm going to explain a lot, but whatever. I was in this primal play meetup group, and I was so excited about it. And then I went to it, and like the first 20 minutes I was there, I quickly realized that like they're the kind of primal play people that like make the rest of us look bad, like in the like barking at someone in an IKEA kind of a way. Like, because I'm primal and my animal side never turns off, it's just natural that I'm gonna growl in line at the Walmart checkout. Like, legit, actual, almost verbatim quote from this meeting. And there were so many people who were brand new to primal play in that meeting, and I was like, oh no, this is what we're teaching these people, is that like it's acceptable as a fully grown adult that is actually like you. Primal play does not make you incapable of controlling your impulses. I don't understand. Like acting instinctually, consensually with a partner is actually not at odds with daily impulse control, and I don't know why people act like it's not. And then the thing that really got me was then the person who was leading the group very confidently said, even though she's literally only been doing primal play for 2 years, which I know I'm kind of like pulling rank with like how long I've been in the scene, but like I've literally been doing primal play this entire time. So I feel like I maybe know more about how expansive it can be. I had this reaction specifically because it was telling someone this does not happen, and it was very definitive, when in reality pretty much all kinks can be done in combination with other kinks, even if you can't personally visualize how it would happen. And they told this new person to primal play that like you can't, like primal play and power exchange are like incompatible, and like you can't do power exchange and primal play together. They're like at odds with each other, which is like, these people did not know me, and I didn't want to like get into a whole thing about it, and like I'm actually the group leader, but like so I don't exist then. I'm not doing power exchange, or I'm not doing real true primal play. and I haven't been for years, apparently. I've just been a fucking liar who lies about their kink. So disappointing. So disappointing. Oh, goodness. People get very actually about things in life. Yeah. Girl at Walmart checkout? Yeah, I know a kid like that in middle school. Though they were a literal werewolf, I played along because I felt bad at their kids. Literally, it's like people that want to, like, and I get that. Hey, be a middle. It's okay to be a middle and, like, roleplay being your weird-ass 12-year-old self who was convinced they were actually a werewolf. That's okay. That's a thing we can do in society. But that's a roleplay thing that we do with consenting adults and not strangers that are forced to interact with us because they literally are employed by Walmart. Or, like, are just trying to, like, buy their frozen chicken wings because they're having a party that night. Like, come on. Come on. Don't be like that. Can you do a TikTok video on kink of sorts? I would love to see your reaction to some of the questionable influencers. I am planning to do another, like, kink talk reaction video. I'm not on TikTok because the censorship would drive me nuts, and I don't want to have to remake an account 5 times. If it was less censorship heavy, I would have gotten on TikTok, but I just, like, the censorship is too much for me. It, like, hurts my brain. We should call Power Exchange with Primal Play. Wait for it. Primal Exchange. That actually would work, though. Maybe we'll coin a new term. Maybe we just coined a whole new thing. Wow. Okay, let's see. One more question. Speaking of, I'm still getting used to the term middle. 10 or 12 years ago, I swear they were just called older littles or something. I mean, when I was, like, first in the scene, like, 9 years ago, like, literally the first year I was in the scene, I met somebody who self-identified as a middle. I can't speak to whether or not, like, maybe it's one of those things where, like, previously it was only called older little, and then over the last, like, 10 years or so, kind of middles taken things over slowly, but I've always heard the term middle. But I'm sure at least some people also said older little too. That's probably also the case. Don't be weird in IKEA and harsh the vibe that you neurodivergent person, can get super organized. Oh, the joy of MDF. People are, yeah, just, I'm not gonna, if I think about it more, it's going to make me upset, so I'm just going to not think about that interaction. I've literally only ever been disappointed when I've tried to interact with a group of Primal Play people. Like, I've gone to so many group events for Primal Play folks, and it's always been, like, an embarrassing shit show. like, I feel like people say stuff like, polyamorous people are always ugly, kinky people are always ugly, they're all lame older people. And that's, like, objectively not true. However, I have never met a group of Primal Play people assembled together as a group that has beaten the allegations of them being a group of people that have zero impulse control and are trying to find a kink to justify that. And maybe that's me. Maybe I'm the hater. I'm willing to be the hater if that's what it actually is. Just disappointing. Do you label your videos anything special when uploading to YouTube? Are they weird about what rules they enforce? So I label them as not for kids, and I label them as education in the metadata. That's, like, basically what I have control over. Other than that, there's, like, a couple of words I avoid using in titles and thumbnails and, like, in the video itself. So, like, fetish is a big one. That's, like, an automatic age restriction. Can't use the word thing. There's, like, genitals, like, certain, like, terms for genitalia, certain other words that also get dicey, but that's, like, probably the big one. Even in the Therian talk at the FurCon I went to, they were like, sometimes I get the urge to growl at people, but I fight it when I'm in normie spaces rather than, well, I can't help it. Yeah, it's like, I mean, like, that's a brave thing to admit to a group of people, but yeah, they literally are like, but I just can't, it should just be normal that I do this. And it's like, well, there's a reason it's not. Don't scare children in the Walmart. It's like, I feel like that should be, if you're not safe in a Walmart, if you make people feel scared inside being close to you, that should be a call for a check-in about what your behavior is. Now, people can just be haters and they can just be phobes, but not all of them are. Sometimes it's just you not respecting people's personal boundaries. All right, I'm trying to find one more question here, but we're just talking about Primal Play stuff, I guess. Thank you, Thomas. Love everything, and thank you for being so heart. Thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate it. Love being here on the Fridays. Love having you all around. It's good times. Okay, we're talking about primal play stuff. And to be clear, I have like no problems with like Therians or furries or anyone. It's just like if you literally to the point where you're like, I should be allowed to growl inside of a Walmart directly behind someone because they're annoying me and I want them to know it. You need to talk to somebody about that urge because that's the thing you can actually like work on. Fun fact, you can work on that. For topping and bottoming, it's called verse rather than switch. Oh, okay. Well, it depends on what context you mean. Because if you're talking about in the kink community for topping and bottoming for kink play, it's still called being a switch. If you're talking about being a verse, that's like for sexual play. At least that's how I like, in the kink community, that's the delineation. Because I know lots of people that are top bottom switches. I know very few people that are dom sub switches. So, in the kink sense of top and bottom. But if you're talking about sexually topping and bottoming, that's like a whole other thing. Yeah. I assume because I'm a kink educator, they were talking about topping and bottoming in a kink sense, not a sexual sense. Though there is overlap. I think I just answered that one. When is London Pride? I don't know. I thought it already happened. Maybe it's in August. I'm not in a TP. I have been close to one before, but never full total power change. But I think Lexi has been, if you were just in that to Lexi. Lexi currently is even. Did you ever see the spin-off TV series? This is such a fantastic last question. Did you ever see the spin-off TV series of Emperor's New Groove, where Kuzco has to go to school and graduate in order to continue being emperor? First of all, I love that show because the whole concept is like, when you have the nightmare, you get fired and you can't do your job anymore until you go back to high school and get a degree, which I find very funny. I did see a couple episodes of that. I didn't watch a lot of it. My favorite spin-off TV series that's based on a former Disney movie is the Little Mermaid one, because there was an orca in it and I fucking loved the orca. It was only on at like 6 a.m. my time on like some random TV channel, and I used to wake up super early to watch it before anyone else in my house was awake. I loved it. It was so awesome. That one was my favorite. I don't remember if it was just called, I think it was called like The Little Mermaid Adventures or something. I don't remember what the title of it was, but that one was fucking baller. El Dorado. I distinctly remember when El Dorado was released on Netflix because everyone in my dorm floor immediately organized watching it downstairs in the projector. Like they were like, let's all watch this. Because it was a big deal. Everyone wanted to go watch it immediately. Maybe just because I'm in the gay kink scenes, but I've always seen people separate topping, bottoming, sex, and dom subbing kink. Well, but there's like, anytime I've seen top and kink, it was like sex and kink. Well, I mean, I can't speak to like the gay men's community. Maybe it's different there, but like in the pansexual, like general kink community, people don't say verse for anything because they're not gay. Because they're not gay people. They don't generally say verse for that reason. Topping and bottoming and dom and sub. Because people are like dom bottom switches and people are like sub top switches. Like some people submit but they top for some things, so they say switch for everything, and then if somebody's more involved with the gay stuff, they will say verse for like more sexually leaning things, because like topping and bottoming and kink is not only just a sex thing, right? It can also just be like platonic play with friends and a bunch of other things. Just to clarify this. It's for you love this channel. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that. I think Yzma was the principal or something, or maybe the sports coach. I feel like you maybe are combining Yzma with what's her face from Glee, because she was also like the mean lady who was also a sports coach, right? Anyways, okay, it's 10 after. I gotta go. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate you all for spending your time with me a little bit here on this Friday afternoon, and evening, actually, or morning. Maybe it's Saturday morning where you live. I don't know. I'm not in charge of you. I'm not in charge of the globe and time. That'd be way too much responsibility. But wherever you're at, whatever time it is, Hopefully you have a fantastic tomorrow and rest of your day. Sleep well, drink water, mask up if you're going in public, because we are dealing with 1.3 million people a day getting COVID out here on these streets, and getting COVID sucks ass. Trust me, you don't want it. So take a mask with you when you go out in public, when you go to the grocery store. Stay safe. And that's about it. I will now summon the dog. Anita, do you know what time it is, my lovely lady? Oh, there's a fire truck outside. Wanna come here, baby? Come on. Come on. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, good girl. Look at you and your big tail. Yeah, come here, baby. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah. Good girl. Look at this baby. Look at the baby. Hello. Oh, so good. The bandit is activated. Did I summon you from your sleep? I know we're sleepy, baby. Oh, I feel good. Someone on field unmatched with me for using top bottom in a kink sense and not a position sense. I have heard people say it's cultural appropriation from the gay community to say top and bottom. And then all I can say to that is you don't know your history. Because we used to all, long ago, before our peoples were separated by the Great Schism, in the history of the kink community, once upon a time, the hets and the gays and the pro-doms all got together and shared terms and information, and top and bottom were among them. And we all decided it was okay to also use it in a kink sense. And we have for literal decades. I have books from 1990 about the kink community that talk about top and bottom versus dom and subs. This is like, it's been going on for a long time, all right? It's not a new thing. But anyways, just wanted to give some people some bandit smile time. Some bandit smile time, because we're so smiley. Because we're such a happy girl. Yeah, so good. Sleepy, sleepy girl. Okay, all right. Thanks, it's been very helpful, borderline therapy. Well, I am glad to provide borderline, non-therapy therapy. Hopefully you feel better, Johnny. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing with us. I'm glad I could help. And I will hopefully